In this video, you're gonna learn the best opening lines to start your cold calls, keep your prospects longer on the phone so they don't hang up on you, and move these prospects closer to buying your products and services. What's going on, everybody? My name is Patrick Dang. Welcome to my channel where we're gonna be talking about sales. If you're ready for this video, make sure to give it a like, subscribe, and turn on notifications if you wanna see more sales videos like this. Without wasting any time, we're gonna dive right into what is personally what I think is one of the best cold calling opening lines. Now, there are gonna be many different lines that you can use. You can find it online, but from my experience, this one has worked really well, and I'm confident no matter what it is you're selling, whether it's a small, medium business or to enterprise, these strategies will work for you. So the opening line that we're gonna go through is this. When you're starting your cold call, you call the person, ring, 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 they're gonna pick up, and here is what you're gonna say. Hey, I'm a little lost. Do you mind if I take a second to tell you why I'm calling? So let me go ahead and repeat that to make sure you really get this down, because it's super important you get the first line right. Hey, I'm a little lost. Do you mind if I take a second to tell you why I'm calling? So there are a couple things that you're gonna wanna pay attention to. When it comes to cold calling, the most important aspect to really connect with another person and to get them to listen to what you have to say is you gotta build rapport. You gotta build trust and a relationship with the person instantly. Because if they don't trust you or they feel like you're just a salesperson trying to sell them something, well, they're either gonna hang up right away or tell you they don't have time, and you're basically your cold call is over from there. But when you come in with a little bit of a pattern interrupt, and instead of pushing an idea down someone's throat, you're basically asking for help. You're saying, hey, I'm a little lost. You mind if I take a second to tell you why I'm calling? So you're being straightforward and you're telling them exactly what you want. You just want to take a moment to tell you why you're calling to see if they would be interested. You're also saying that you're a little lost and you're asking for help, and people are more likely to help other people in need. So not only do you need help, but you're being straightforward and you're telling them what they can expect on the call. So they're not wondering, oh, when is this guy gonna shut up? They are, listening to you because you're basically asking for permission to speak. So once you say that line, people are naturally gonna say, oh, sure, what's up? Right? They don't really know why you're calling, but they are willing to listen. They're not really sure, what's going on, but they could take one moment just to see if it's important. Now, the next part of the call is once you earn the permission to explain why is it that you're giving them a call, you really need to give a brief introduction of who you are, how you provide value, and then you want to provide some context and create an agenda for the rest of the call. So let me go ahead and give you an example of how I would do it. And obviously you can take inspiration from it and create variations that fit for your specific market, right? Because every industry is going to be different. So I'm going to give you an example, and then we're going to break it down line by line so you can see exactly what I'm doing. So let's start from the top. I give them a call, ring, ring, ring. Hey, I'm a little lost. Do you mind if I take a second to tell you why I'm calling? They say, oh, sure, what's up? My name is Patrick, and I'm part of the strategic partnerships team at company XYZ. And what I do is help e-commerce companies like yours generate more sales with online marketing. And I noticed that your Instagram account has been blowing up recently. Congrats on that. They say, oh, thanks. Then you continue on and you say, but when I was looking on your website, I noticed that you weren't really running any Facebook ads or Google ads. And you probably already know this, but one of the easiest ways to generate revenue is just to retarget the people that visited your website and get them back and see if they would want to buy something, because sometimes people just need a little push. So what I want to do for this call is really just to take 5 minutes to learn a little bit more about your business and see whether or not we can work together in any capacity. And if we can work together, great, we can kind of continue to what the next steps will be. But if not, and it's not a good fit to work together, you can tell me at any time during the call, and that's totally fine. Does that sound fair to you? And naturally, the person is gonna say, all right, sure. Right? So pretty much what you're doing is you're asking these questions to get these mini agreements throughout the conversation. And within that second block of the script that I kind of share with you, it's a little bit long. There's definitely ways to shorten it, but I just want to give you the full breakdown of how I would do it, and you can kind of shorten it based on your sale. So basically what I'm doing is, in the beginning, I'm saying, my name is Patrick, part of the strategic partners team at this marketing company, and what we do is we help companies generate more sales with online marketing. Then I kind of use some context, some reference, and said that, oh, your Instagram's blowing up. So if they're an e-commerce company and their Instagram is growing, they're probably generating money in sales, right? So when I took a look on their website and I see they're not running any advertising with Google and Facebook, which you can use using certain tools, then they're obviously missing out on opportunities to retarget their visitors to generate more sales, right? So I'm kind of teasing a problem, and then they kind of get an idea of what the conversation is going to be like because I tease a problem and they can kind of connect the dots in their heads and be like, okay, well, this guy might be able to help me with this problem. And then at the end, what I do is I set the agenda for the call, right? And I say, hey, look, I don't want to waste any of your time. I just want to take 5 minutes to learn a little bit more about your business and see if we can work together in any way. If we can, great, but if not, totally fine. Right? So I'm giving them an opportunity to either say yes or no. So if it sounds interesting so far and it seems like something they want to spend 5 minutes to talk about, then we have a successful cold call and I could qualify the prospect to see if they would be a good fit to buy my products and services. However, if anytime throughout the call, they're like, you know what, Patrick, this is not for me. I already said that it's okay just to let me know. It's okay to say, hey, this is not for me, and we'll end the call, and that's totally fine. So now they have options. They feel like they're in control because if they want to work with you, they're going to keep talking. If they don't want to work with you, you let them know that it's okay to just say no, right? And a lot of salespeople, when they're doing sales calls, the reason why it doesn't work is they keep forcing yes, 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 yes down someone's throat, and it feels very uncomfortable because they feel trapped. But if you give a yes and no option, especially in the beginning of the call, and you can tell them they can hang up at any time, well, now you're different. You're not like every other salesperson out there. You're giving people options. You're just trying to help. And if it's not a good fit, you can let them go and continue on with their lives. And people really respect that because you're respecting their time. And the last question that I asked at the end of that is, does that sound fair to you? Or I could say, is that okay with you? And again, you're getting these mini agreements. If they're saying, yes, that's okay with me, then you earn the right to move into the next step of the cold call. But if you don't ask these questions and it kind of just moves on by itself, people may not be okay. Maybe they want to say no right there, but then you just kept talking as a salesperson. So instead, you got to ask these questions to check the temperature of the prospect throughout the call to make sure they're actually interested. Because if they're not, it's okay to move on to the next call. But if they are, and they're telling you they are, well, now you're gonna be more successful when you're doing cold calls. So now that you understand how to run the beginning of your cold calls, the next step is really just to qualify the prospect and identify their pains, right? So if you identify that this is an e-commerce company, they got a lot of traffic to the website, they're not retargeting, so they're missing out on a lot of money, well, you gotta ask questions to identify the pains, right? Because you want to vet out these prospects to see if they're even qualified to work with you, right? Because not everybody has money to buy your products and services. So you got to gauge whether or not this is something they want to invest in. For example, if they're making a lot of money, but they don't know how to retarget, they don't know how to do ads, but they're willing to spend money for someone to do it for them, they would be a great fit. However, if you find that, hey, maybe they have a big Instagram following, but they're not generating any sales, so retargeting is not going to do anything if they can't get any sales right off the bat. And if they don't have money to pay you, then it's your turn to kind of end the conversation and say, hey, it's not a good fit right now, maybe in the future, right? So you're qualifying the prospect as much as they're qualifying to see whether or not they want to work with you. Because if it's not a good fit, then both sides cannot win. But if there is a good fit, then it's a win-win relationship. So basically, all you gotta do is ask questions and say like, hey, just curious, have you ever ran ads before, or is this something you ever considered? They say, oh yeah, we tried it before, but it didn't really work. So you ask more questions to kind of uncover the pain, understand why didn't it work, to see if you can make it work for them. So you could say, okay, that's pretty interesting. Well, can you tell me a little bit of what you tried in the past, and I'll see if I can help you in any way. And they'll say, okay, sure. So we tried this, blah, blah, blah. I tried to do it myself, it didn't work. And basically you can't really predict what the prospect is gonna say because everybody has their own unique story, but you gotta ask questions to keep learning. So if they say they try to, advertising themselves, but it's too confusing, and you can ask them, well, what exactly is confusing about it, right? And you go in more detail of what's stopping them from achieving success. And then from there, once you uncover more and more pain, get really deep into it and understand what is blocking them from achieving their goals, you have to really paint the picture of what exactly that they want or the results they are looking for once you kind of identify the pain. So if their results is they want to triple revenue by the end of the year, but they don't know anything about ads, but they feel like that is probably the route because organic traffic is too slow, then you start painting a picture for them. You ask questions like, hey, just curious, what would you like to happen by the end of the year? What are your revenue goals? And they're gonna tell you. And then they'll say, oh, I wanna make $1 million a year. And then you say, okay, great, that's a pretty ambitious goal. Well, is there anything that's stopping you from actually achieving those goals? right? If you ask the questions like that, they'll say, well, right now, things are going well, but it's not growing fast enough, and we need a way to really juice up sales. Okay, so then you ask more questions to see if paid advertising, which is something that you specialize in, can be the solution to where they already want to go. Because if you can make this align, right, then they're a lot more likely to continue the call and buy from you in the future. The main important thing is during the pain process of the cold call, you really need to understand what is their problem? What's stopping them from their goals, right? So let's say, do they want to make more revenue, but they don't know how to do it? Or do they realize that by not running ads, they're leaving a lot of money on the table, which is like just free money. They just need to know how to run an ad, but just don't know how to set it up. Or maybe they have a marketing person on their team, but that person's not very skilled, and maybe they can pay you to train that person to learn how to do the ads themselves, right? So there's many different variations or solutions that you can provide depending on what is your core service or product, but you want to make sure you uncover these pains and try to align what you're selling as closely as possible to their pains to see if you can get them to the desired solution. Now, the next step of the process when it comes to do the cold call is to actually close out the call and set up the next meeting. So for a lot of deals, let's say if you're selling a package for thousands of dollars, it's pretty unlikely that somebody will buy your services or your product on the first call, especially if it's a cold call and they have never met you at all, and this is the first time they're meeting you, and there's not enough rapport and trust built, right? Maybe they want to learn a little bit more, maybe they need to watch more videos, or maybe they need to see some more case studies and proof that whatever result you're promising them, you can actually deliver. So what typically happens next is you want to close out the call, right? You want to respect their time, and you want to schedule the next meeting in your sales cycle. So typically for a cold call, you're really just qualifying the prospect to see, hey, is this person a potential fit to buy my products and services? If it's a yes, let's move them to the next step, which is usually a demonstration or presentation, or let's say a breakdown of their business, and you showing how your solutions can help them achieve their goals, right? So typically it's like a more longer conversation where it's like more of a presentation. So once you pitch your products and services, they seem like they're interested, then you say something like this. Sounds like this is something we can really help you out with. Do you mind if I share what the next steps would be if we were to work together? They'll say, okay, sure, why not? And you would say, typically what we'll do is we'll schedule another meeting where we'll take the information that you shared with us on this call. We're gonna give you a little presentation on exactly how we can help solve your problems, generate more sales, and XYZ, right? Whatever it is that you talked about on that call. It's gonna be a simple 30-minute presentation, and by the end of the meeting, we're both gonna have a very clear idea of whether or not it makes sense to work together. And if it does, great. If not, totally fine. Is that okay with you? And they're gonna say, all right, sure. So basically, by saying it this way, it makes it very obvious what the next step is. Just schedule the next meeting, see the presentation, and decide whether or not you want to work together after that presentation. If it's a yes, great, get the sale. If it's a no, totally fine. You move on to the next person, and then you follow up with them in the future to see if maybe they want to buy later on. So from there, what you want to do is you want to make sure you schedule that next meeting on that call, right? You don't want to do it over email later on. You want to do it right there, right now, right? So you basically just say, hey, look, does this week or next week work better for you? They're going to say, okay, next week is good for me. Okay. And then you look on your calendar, you say, okay, well, I'm free on Wednesday and Thursday. Which day works best for you? And they're going to say, Thursday is fine. Okay, and then you look on your calendar again and say, okay, well, 10 a.m. is looking pretty good for me. How's that sound for you? They're gonna say, yeah, that seems okay with me. Okay, great. I'm gonna send you a calendar invite for Thursday, 10 a.m. And I'll go ahead and send you an email recapping everything we talked about, so you make sure we get this all down. And then you ask them, is there anything else you want to talk about before we kind of end the call right here? They're gonna say, no, I think we're good. I'll see you next week. Say, okay, great. See you next week. Bye. Boom. And that's pretty much it. And that's pretty much the process you want to go through when it comes to opening your cold call and qualifying the prospect and then scheduling the next meeting. And in the next meeting, either you're gonna do the presentation and you're gonna show them whether or not they should buy, or maybe another person in your team, like an account executive or the person that closes deals, maybe they're gonna be on the call and they're gonna try to sell the customer, right? So every organization is a little different, but that is pretty much how you do your cold calls in a nutshell. So if you enjoyed this video, make sure to give it a like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. And let me know in the comments if you enjoy these kind of step-by-step tutorial or processes, because I'd be happy to make more for you. And also let me know if you have any other challenges when it comes to sales or cold calling or lead generation, and I'll make a future video to help you out. And if you want to check out more cold calling videos and how to close over the phone, make sure to check out my other videos. And so with that said, my name is Patrick Dang, and I will see you guys in the next one.